Mom, what would you focus on
What I
if you
focus
were
on?
yeah, what would you focus on if you were adapting it? Like, how would you tell the story?
We're all effing crazy.
Uh, what'd you say?
She said, "They're all effing crazy."
That'll be
That's
the name of
Diane.
the movie.
That's the tagline, "Wuthering Heights, they're all effing crazy." Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of Fried Green Avocados. Today I have my niece Caroline and my mother Diane on the podcast for our very first book club episode. So, with the release of Wuthering Heights, the three of us, in our infinite wisdom, decided that it would be fun to have our own little book club. And for this episode, we're not just going to talk about the book, we're also going to talk about some of the movie adaptations that we've all watched and give our perspective on how we think the narrative of Wuthering Heights has come to be. As you'll see in a minute, we definitely have some opinions about the book and about the movies. I think Diane has some opinions that she would like to share about the book, definitely, as I have heard over the course of the last 3 weeks as we've gone through this. All right, let's start with the book. In my real life book club, which is also reading Wuthering Heights, we typically go around and we give the books that we read what we call the Goodreads rating. So we give them a 1 to 5 stars, and then we explain why we rated the book that way. I figured we could start by going around and doing our Goodreads rating. Mama, I'm going to start with you. On a scale of 1 to 5, what is your rating for the book itself? Not any of the movies, just the book.
Do you want my rating from when I read it the first time or this time or both?
We can do both.
Okay, so when I read it the first time, I was maybe like 13, and I had a whole different take on it because I think I felt like I felt bad for Heathcliff. And I also thought that Heathcliff, from the point of view of a 13-year-old girl, was really hot. So
Yeah.
to me, he was like, he's like an anti-hero, but I didn't dislike him because I felt bad for him, because of his circumstances, all that stuff that contributed to why he is the way he is. And in my world, Kathy was going to be like his savior because she's the one who really, really loved him. As a kid, I didn't see anything about how freaking nuts they were and how obsessive they were. Now, when I went back and read it again, because it's been 50 years since I read it, and I'm
Yeah.
reading it going, these people are crazy. I mean, brutal and obsessive and just abusive and nuts. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really good story from the perspective of look at the human condition and how people get obsessed and how it becomes destructive. But I never ever saw it like that when I first read it. Because like I said, I felt bad for him.
Well, so they're nuts, but did you like it? Did you find it to be a good book, or
You
were you
know,
like,
I guess I have to say I did like it because I didn't want to put it down.
all right,
I didn't want to stop reading it, even though I felt like I had to plow through it. I didn't, I still wanted to get to the end of the story to see what happened. So I guess, and I probably will read it again because I think
really?
yeah, I think I will.
Okay.
More from, not so much, see, I was reading it before more like to let me get this read. Now I
Mhm.
want to read it more like for the detail and the nuances of it, especially with all the talk, going around about the new one. Um, what I was disappointed in is I went back and I watched the movie with Laurence Olivier, the first one that came out, and they only did the first half,
Mhm.
and to not show the second half doesn't address the point of the book, the point of the
Well,
story, because
exactly.
that's when Heathcliff really loses his mind, is after she dies and he
Well,
becomes
yeah,
vicious.
and he plays this 18-year long game to get revenge on everybody, which, I mean, I agree. Every single person in this book is insane, with the exception maybe of Nellie, the narrator. But actually, Caroline said something in our conversation last night about Nellie that made me wonder about, and I was looking at this, I was looking for book club questions about whether or not Nellie is a reliable narrator for the book. And Caroline, you were saying that in the new movie, they really imply that Nellie hates Catherine.
So they did. There was this separate plot line of kind of Nellie's, like, journey alongside Catherine in the movie. So, basically what they did is they gave her, I wanna say, more of a backstory. I don't know if this was, like, similar to what it was in the book, but in the movie, Nellie was actually a bastard of, like, a local lord. What had happened was she was taken in by Catherine's father to be kind of her companion. So she was paid, she was kind of a lady's maid. And so as the movie goes on and Catherine, like, gets married and everything, like, all of the, like, big plot points that happen in regards to Heathcliff are like Nellie is involved in them in some way. So the scene where Catherine says that it would basically like degrade her to marry Heathcliff, Nellie saw that he was like at the window and she knew he was at the door and she didn't stop Catherine from talking because at that point Catherine had said something really hurtful to her. So she
Mhm.
let her kind of like ruin her life essentially because she knew that if Catherine married this man, then she would live a really comfortable life. And I think they tried to make it as like Catherine was everything that Nellie was supposed to be. And that was kind of a reason why he had this hatred of her. But it's kind of complicated because I also think that Nellie also had some affection for her. So it was this interesting dynamic. It kind of all rounds together at the end. But the movie also is only the first half of the book. We found that out last night. So
Yeah,
it's
so it ends
similar
with
to the other
Catherine
ones.
dying. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
that's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing about Heathcliff's journey into madness afterwards. So
Does Heathcliff die in this version?
no,
No. No.
neither does the husband. At
The
least not
husband
so
yet.
doesn't die either?
Nope.
no, so they just cut off the whole second half of the book.
Yeah, once the ending scene is literally just Heathcliff holding Catherine's, like, dead body, essentially, and then the movie cuts, and that's it.
But I read today that Catherine's baby dies.
Yeah, she actually never has the baby, too. I didn't tell you this last night, but I think it's implied that her illness was based off of, like, her having issues and, like, complications with the baby. Like, I think in the book, it was kind of applied that it was supposed to be, like, tuberculosis or something, like, adjacent to an illness like that, but in the movie, it was more like it was, like, sepsis born from, like, her kid, like, passing away. You know what I mean? It was kind of complicated because in the ending scenes, they said Catherine said that she lost the baby a long time ago, but Nellie thought that she was just looking for attention, so she ignored her. But
Mhm.
then at the end of the movie, you could see signs of sepsis and her being really ill. But then in the scene where she dies, she's being leeched. She's got leeches all across her chest, but she ends up bleeding to death, but looks like a miscarriage. So it's kind of confusing. I'm not sure
Okay.
what it is, but it's different from the book. She doesn't have the baby either way.
Yeah, I mean, that just completely diverts from the book,
Well, that's
So
kind
I
of
don't
like, 100%.
I don't
unbelievable.
know. They couldn't even have if they decided to make the second half, they couldn't even do it because baby Catherine is so important to the rest of it. So this is a one and done kind of movie.
And then
But
I
it made
also
me
read that they didn't show Catherine's brother, they just alluded to him.
No, her brother's dead
Right,
in the
that's, fundamental to
right,
the whole plot
and
of,
what they
like
did and what they did was this is what I read, that they gave her father the brother's persona, and the father was mean,
uh
right?
They did do that because I was telling you last night, Auntie, that the father was, like, super abusive to Catherine and Heathcliff. So the father was a drunk, and he would go out into town and gamble all their money away, and one night he brought home Heathcliff and was like, you know, "I'm gonna make you into a gentleman," and whatever, and the father really had, "I'm the best man in the world" kind of complex, but he was super abusive, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So he was the one that was awful to Heathcliff, so and it's
Interesting.
odd, and so the only reason that he's named Heathcliff, Kathy named him, I don't know if it was the same in the books, but
No.
Kathy decided to name him Heathcliff because apparently in the movie, her dead brother was named Heathcliff. So he's dead, and his name
Now
is
how did this
Heathcliff, and
woman
then
even
she
dream
named
this
Heathcliff
stuff up?
after the dead baby. I don't know, to
I
be
mean, it's
honest.
so far removed from the characters in the book.
It was good. I don't agree with all of the people online that are saying that it was the most horrendous thing they've ever seen. I thought it I thought it was good. I've seen much worse. But, like, it was artistic, it was, like, visually stimulating, the music was really good.
It's just not the same story.
No, it's definitely not book accurate, but when you look at it from an artistic lens, it was extremely, extremely creative. I thought it was pretty masterfully done with the direction that they decided to go in with it,
Yeah.
but it's not book accurate.
I mean, they do say I noticed in the marketing, they say it's inspired by Wuthering
Right.
Heights, so they don't say it's an actual adaptation. They just
They
say
put
it's
it in
inspired,
quotations.
yeah,
Right, yeah,
They put it in
inspired
inspired
was
quotations.
by.
I mean, but I feel like we all know like Emerald Fennell's work. So like if anyone was going into this thinking it would be anything unlike Saltburn, like I don't know
Yeah.
what you thought it was gonna be.
Now,
So
Diane, I don't think, Mama, I don't think you've seen Saltburn,
No, I
but it
haven't.
does have your crush, Jacob Elordi, in it. And I don't know,
your hus.
yeah. So for people listening, my mother here has a very how would we describe it? A very serious
Intense?
crush. Intense, thank you, is the word I'm looking for. A very intense crush on Jacob Elordi. And loves him a lot,
I'm
which
not dead
apparently
yet.
I know you're not dead yet,
No.
Mama. I know you're not dead yet. But Caroline, you were saying that there like groups of women in their like 60s and 70s on Facebook who all just love Jacob Elordi. Is
Yes.
this
Yes. There are Facebook groups about Jacob Elordi on Facebook. Like I'm not even kidding. And it's all older women and they're obsessed with this poor man.
I don't I mean he's cute, don't get me wrong, but I don't get it. I don't get the why he's connecting with this older generation of ladies.
Because he's a manly man. He's not
Really?
pretty, you know.
No, he's
He's not pretty. He is very masculine. Like when you see the clip from the movie, and that's all I've really seen of him. Because if I see him like in his suit, all dressed up, I'm like, yeah, he's a nice looking kid.
yeah.
But the scene where they show him climbing up over the roof and he's got all that long hair and the beard and his hairy chest and everything else, it's like, oh my God. When you see him like in interviews, he's not, but
Yeah.
the character that he plays is.
So
So maybe the
what
crush is not
you're
Jason Elordi, it's the way Jason Elordi plays Heathcliff.
yeah, I think you're obsessed with Heathcliff Jacob
Yeah,
Elordi
that's
and not
probably, yeah.
Jacob Elordi as a
The way
whole.
he plays the character of Heathcliff.
This is making a lot more sense.
It really
Yes.
is.
Yeah, it's making a lot more sense. All right. So we got a little sidetracked on things. We were talking about the book, and I was saying, is Nellie actually a reliable narrator? Because I hated this book. I hated it. I would give it a 0 stars on
Oh
Goodreads.
my
So why?
gosh.
Why did you hate it?
So I hated it because I disliked every character. I found no redeeming qualities in any of them. I thought that I didn't.
Even little baby Catherine? You didn't like her either?
I hated her. I thought she was spoiled and annoying. And
No, like
Nellie,
baby Catherine? Not grown up Catherine, like baby Catherine.
young
The baby
Catherine,
girl?
Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't like either version of young Catherine. I didn't like first young Catherine. I didn't like second young Catherine. I didn't like any of them. I didn't like Heathcliff. To, Mom's point, I thought he was abusive and narcissistic. And I understand the point. The point is how you can let your obsession ruin you. But I just didn't find anything redeeming about the book or the characters. I didn't even like the writing. I found the part there were parts in it to me that I had to reread a lot because I found it confusing. And it wasn't just the language. It felt like it was just skipping over things that weren't quite clear. I didn't find that they gave me enough in terms of the development of Catherine and Heathcliff's relationship for me to really understand why he was so obsessed with her. Like there wasn't enough devoted to that to understand why he would be, just so devastated and so enamored with her. But what made me think was, is all of this because it's told from the perspective of Nellie? That's how I got back to where I was going. Like, is this who these characters really were? Or to your point, Caroline, did Nellie just hate these people? And so that's how this comes across in the book. Like, is there a main part of this that I was missing?
No,
It
yeah.
doesn't change my opinion of the book. I still hated it and I wouldn't read it again. And it really, when you were saying, Mom, when you were saying when you initially read it, you loved it when you were younger, I was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand how you're seeing any redeeming qualities in any of these folks. But maybe I missed the whole point. And the whole point is Nellie hated these people. And so that's how she's telling the story.
You could definitely tell in the movie that she had not had it out, but she was not a fan of most of the characters in the book. Like, I'm quite convinced that the only person she actually liked was the husband simply because he gave her, had her live in comfort.
Yeah.
I definitely think that there was like at least some affection for Kathy, because there were scenes where like you could tell that she cared about her, but there were some other scenes where it was just like it was almost cruel, but then you're like, can I actually be mad because Kathy really is a spoiled brat. I think
Yeah.
Margot Robbie did a really good job portraying the different aspects of the character, because she is in the movie too. Like, she's petulant, she's spoiled, she's cruel. Like, at the end of the movie, I like was finding myself, I was talking to my cousin because she went with me. I didn't think it was as sad as people said it was going to be. I was going in expecting emotional devastation, and by the end of it, it was really sad that she died, but I just wasn't, it wasn't a tearjerker for me. But they did succeed in making me absolutely hate Nellie's guts. But then I was thinking about it on the way home, and I'm like, Nellie was like really the only normal person out of all of them in this movie, that she seemed to be the worst. Like, that's bad. I was just like, I need to cut this woman some slack.
Well, so Caroline, you didn't even get through the book. You read what, the first chapter, and you were like, I can't do
I'm
this.
being completely 100% truthful and honest here. I did not make it through the book at all. I am only offering the movie perspective, unfortunately. I agree with you.
It's okay. Sometimes you can't get through. Sometimes you're just
I
like, this
really
is
tried.
awful. Yeah.
And I know you were making fun of me. I did 3 chapters. I did 3 chapters. By the
Okay.
3rd chapter, I just couldn't do it anymore. It wasn't, and I don't want like people to come at me and be like, Gen Z doesn't know how to read and there's like a literary like
No,
whatever. I'm
that's
like,
not it.
I understand the benefits of reading classic literature. I just like, I couldn't do it. I knew from the beginning that it was just going to be exactly what you said. It was going to be a drag, and I was going to have to force myself to read it, reread things a million times. Like, it was not going to be a fun experience for me.
So, hey, look, the point of this podcast is we're 3 generations who can all have 3 different perspectives and 3 different experiences with the book. So that's the goal. And your experience was, dear God, no, I can't do
I
this.
couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Totally okay.
I couldn't do it.
So Wuthering Heights is sold to us as this sort of epic romance.
Mm-mm.
Do you think that's what this book is actually about?
No, I don't think Emily Bronte wanted it to be that either. I think it got warped like throughout the years. And I think that it's interesting because the marketing for this movie, like releasing it on Valentine's Day and like including these like A-list like hot actors in it and like all of this stuff really pushed like the romance. But then in interviews, like Emerald Fennell saying like she didn't want people to call any of the scenes romantic or passionate. She wanted it to call them like disturbing and like moving and like something like that. And I'm like, but you marketed this as a romantic movie. Like, I'm really confused. Like, I don't get it. Why would you release something on Valentine's Day if you didn't want it to be this like, and like all the promotional movies are him like promotional photos are him like caressing her, and like all of their ads are him like doing really like passionate romantic things. So I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm confused. This book is not a romance, and I didn't get romance in the movie either, even with all of like the added like stuff. This also happened, like, I read Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre. So with Jane Eyre, like, I feel like it was also kind of similar in the sense it's, like, called a romance. And, like, Jane Eyre is more of a romance than Wuthering Heights was at, like, 500%. But
100%.
but I don't think that like, sisters wanted it to be almost reduced to that, you know what I mean? And there's nothing against romances, obviously, but they were writing it more from the perspective of social commentary almost, and it as a way to not excuse bad behavior.
Yeah.
And touch on psychological concepts. It was almost like the psychological thrillers of the time period. And it's like now they're only marketed as these romances in modern day. And then when you actually go and read them, you're like, it is so far removed from modern romance that you can't even wrap your head around it. And I think it does the authors a disservice to market their books as romances so much.
Yeah.
But then
because that's not what they wanted it to be.
you have to also wonder, like, what happened with Charlotte Bronte that she even had this concept for this? What happened in her life? Because supposedly she was very isolated. She hardly ever went out. So, I mean, did she just dream this up, or was there something in her household where
Yeah.
she could relate to all this, or neighbors, or something in her life that caused her to address this?
Well, yeah. And I mean, so this one was Emily Bronte, I think, not Charlotte. 'Cause I
Wuthering
think
Heights was Emily Bronte. Jane
Yeah.
Eyre was Charlotte Bronte.
Yeah, Charlotte.
Yeah. But I mean, they're kind of similar themes, right? You know, Charlotte's writing Jane Eyre. So, I mean, there must have been something within that family or the times or I don't know, the village they lived in, whatever it was that
Something was going on
I
wherever
mean,
Yeah,
they lived.
yeah, they had some issues that were
because I mean,
happening.
the Wuthering Heights is far more extreme than Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
You know,
yes.
Jane Eyre, I mean, at least it wasn't all like normal. You know what I mean? You know, what she felt for him wasn't some kind of obsession,
Yeah.
you know, where this is like a whole other extreme in Wuthering Heights.
Well, and that's why I don't think that this was ever meant to be a romance, and I think that's part of the reason why we don't see a lot of the character buildup between Catherine and Heathcliff in the book. You don't see that depth of love and romance and all of that. You get the sense that they're in love, and obviously that scene where she says she's going to marry Edgar because Heathcliff can't provide for her. It's obvious that they're in love with each other, but it's not the focal point of the book. The obsession and the revenge part is the focal point of the book. And I was actually doing a little research before this, and what I found out was the idea of this being a romance doesn't actually seem to have happened until the 1939 movie with Laurence Olivier. So there was an adaptation of the movie before this in 1920. And the way they build that was Emily Bronte's tremendous story of hate, and that's how the movie was billed in the first adaptation. And then in the 1930s, Hollywood comes in the late 30s. That's kind of like peak of Hollywood starting to become the thing that it is. And they turn it into this sweeping romance.
You
And
know,
so
there was
that's,
one before that one.
yeah. So when I was looking at it, I guess they haven't found any like surviving copies of it. So I don't think at least in what I saw. So I don't think you can watch it anywhere. But that was like if the promotional posters, they still have found those. And that's how it's billed. It's the tremendous story of hate. And that feels way more accurate to what I was
No,
reading
it definitely
than
does.
this sweeping like love story. And so I feel like it's really only been the Hollywoodification of the story that brought it to where it is right now.
And that's true with a lot of books because I felt that way. We read Jane Eyre for my high school AP literature class, and I watched a ton of movie adaptations. I'm not sure which year my favorite came out, but I think it was the most recent one. And they were all really good, but they really, 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 really focused on the romance element rather than the psychological element of it. Like, and I even feel that way about Pride and Prejudice. And this is absolutely not a diss to Pride and Prejudice at all, the movie or the
Love
book.
that.
I think the movie with Keira Knightley is one of the best movies ever made. But
Love it.
reading the book after watching the movie first, it's interesting because you're like, it's the romantic aspect is amplified by like 85,000 in the movies, obviously because of the Hollywoodification, like you
Yeah.
said. But in the book, I feel like there's more emphasis on societal roles and the actual pride and the actual prejudice and
Hmm.
like all of the other stuff. Because I remember I was telling you after I finished the book, it was really, really good, but I didn't get like that huge romantic aspect that I thought I was going to get out of it.
Well,
So, like,
and not to get on my like feminist horse, which I can get on sometimes, but
ooh,
but I almost feel like you're taking these female authors who are really trying to make a social commentary at the time,
that
which
was
was
the point I was
so,
trying to make.
yeah, like
Yeah.
so far ahead of their time, and you're reducing them to romance novelists. Not that there's anything wrong with being a romance novelist, but they were trying to say more in their novels.
So, yeah, not necessarily reduce, but simplify, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Into
Oh,
something that it's not.
It's
So,
obviously, women of that day could only be romance novelists and not have these bigger social commentaries. And, it's kind of amazing that we're not taking their work seriously still. Because I look at this and I think, so all of the adaptations that I've looked at, so I watched, and you watched this one too, Mom, the 2009 Tom Hardy one on the I think it was BBC or PBS or something. But they did it as a 2 episode series. So they were trying to fit everything into 2 hours. And they tried to put as much of the original material in there as they could. There were definitely some holes where I was like, oh, if I didn't have the background of the book, I may not have been able to follow. Did you think
well,
that, Mom?
the main thing I noticed that wasn't in that was the scene where she tells Nellie, "I could not marry Heathcliff." That to me was like a core scene because he overhears it, and that's why he leaves. And that
Exactly.
wasn't in there. It was like, how do you leave that out? I don't understand.
even the
That
new
was
movie had that scene. So,
I mean, that's the pivotal turning point of the whole book, and they cut it out. And I actually think if you gave a skilled director maybe a limited series to go through the whole book, because I don't think you can get the whole book into 2 hours. I think there's
There is
too
another
much there.
BBC series that has 5 episodes.
Okay.
It came out, I think, in 2012 because I was gonna put that on last night. I said, "I can't take any
All
more,"
right.
but I might end up watching that, because I'm starting to get, like, a little "Ooh" with this, but, yeah, I noticed that that was 5 episodes, but Tom Hardy one too started with, like, right after her death, where he's digging up the grave, and that's how they started, and then they did, like,
Yeah.
a flashback of how they got to that, which I thought was kind of interesting. But it was only okay. He's not Heathcliff.
And honestly, I have a lot of issues with that series. One, how you make Tom Hardy unattractive, because if you wanna talk about masculine
Yeah,
man,
because I mean,
Tom
the
Hardy is where
wig
you
and
wanna
everything
go.
was just oh my god, it was awful. It really was. It was,
I
like,
mean,
hard to watch.
you make him not only physically unattractive, but you make him look like a bad actor.
Yeah.
Everybody in that adaptation is actually very talented, and I was watching it going, "Who directed this? These all people all seem like atrocious actors
But
in
see,
this
I didn't
adaptation,"
think
and I know that they
yeah,
aren't. What
I didn't
happened here?
yeah, I didn't think that, but I out of all of them, I found him really uncomfortable to watch. It seemed like he was so miscast in that
Yeah.
role, that I don't know, and I kept trying to think who else could they put in here, and I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's also in the book, Heathcliff is supposed to be darker skinned. They talk all the time about how he's darker. But I think there are other people that they could have cast, because in the 2009 or the Tom Hardy version, they keep calling him out as being a gypsy,
Right,
and they never say that in the book. They never try to say where he's from.
think that there are a lot of, like, points like this that end up getting lost in, like, the sweeping romance between Catherine and
Mhm.
Heathcliff
yeah,
that are just and I felt the same way about Jane Eyre and Pride and Prejudice. I'm so sorry. But it's
and
just I hate to offer any kind of commentary like that about my beloved favorite movie. But I do think that there's kind of like a divide between the books and their modern movies, so I agree.
Totally. There was something I wanted to say about the Tom Hardy one. I am forgetting something I was going to say.
The train has left the station.
Yeah, the train left the station there. I was like, there's something to be said about this. Oh, no. What I was saying before was that I think if you gave a skilled director 5 episodes, this could actually be really interesting. I think if they actually tried to take the romance out and made it more of a drama about Heathcliff and his own turmoil and all of
right.
that, I think you could actually make a really interesting series about this and have it be something that sticks with people a little bit more than just the fact that it's this romance that nobody really understands, these 2 messed up people. And I'm sort of, I was thinking about how you were talking, Mom, about how when you were 14, you felt bad for Heathcliff and you thought he was amazing. And I'm just curious, now that you're older, what do you think has changed about your perspective and how you view him? It sounds like you don't feel bad for him anymore.
No, but I grew up, I mean?
But
Well, the other thing too, it was the '60s, okay?
yeah.
And everything was like, "Oh, you poor thing, I wanna help you, I can change him because I love him," and that's you grow up and you go, "Oh, I don't need you as a project, go straighten yourself out," you know? It's like, if you had Heathcliff home, I would, like, say, "What the hell's wrong with you?" The guy is, like, fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But back then, I remember being in high school, right?
Yeah.
And, there was we had religion and, some classes stick in your head, right? And Sister
Yeah.
Sylvia,
Yeah.
and something went on, I don't know, some horrendous thing. She was asking us, what we thought of it. And I said, and I really sympathized with whoever the so-called victim was. And she basically said to me, I've noticed, Diane, you always take the position of the underdog. She said, which is all well and good. However, people have a personal responsibility to take charge of themselves and straighten out. So while you're looking at it like, "Oh, poor thing, I'll help," the other side of that is they have to, take their responsibility and do something too, and it's the first time anybody ever said anything like that to me. So I think back then being a kid, you feel bad for him. He didn't have a mother, he didn't have a father, and nobody
Yeah.
loves him, and all this stuff, and it was a different time. Where today we do it, Heathcliff, snap out of it. Let's get going.
Well, I just think it's like, I wonder if I feel like as a society, we've all had a lot more therapy. And so it's like
Yeah.
maybe this is not a story for therapy generation.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, I think it would be interesting if somebody made a series and told it from Heathcliff's point of view,
Yeah.
not
Versus having
Nelly's.
Nellie be
Like,
the
I mean,
narrator.
you could have a field day with this. You could tell it from Catherine's point of view. You could tell it from his point of view. I mean, and then bring them together and have some psychiatrist in the middle of it. Let them go to couples therapy. See what that would do.
You know those, like, YouTube videos where they're all sitting in a circle and they call, like, one person up at a time to talk to each other, almost kind of like a debate, like, in the middle? I'm just,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
imagining that now, except there's, like, a psychiatrist moderating.
No, I want them on the actual couples therapy show with God, what is her
You would
name?
stick them all in a reality TV show.
No, no, like, have you guys watched Couples Therapy on Showtime?
What
No,
is it?
It's
no.
called Couples Therapy.
No,
It's on Showtime.
no.
My God, you have to watch it. It's really good. So, God, why am I forgetting this
I mean,
woman's
we got
name?
enough crazies. I gotta go watch more crazy.
No, no. So it's real couples and they sign up for, a 3-month therapy session with this woman who's a real therapist, and it's their real couples therapy sessions.
Yeah,
And they're talking about their problems and how they're communicating and all of this stuff. And it's actually really interesting because it's not meant from a sensational point of view. It's meant from a how she's really helping these couples try to work through their problems. But it would be fascinating. Catherine and Heathcliff on couples therapy
right.
would be absolutely fascinating.
I
But you
think an
guys should.
episode with Catherine and her husband would also be a fun a fun thing to see.
Okay, see, and this was the other thing too. I also didn't like Edgar because
He was weak.
he was weak.
Argue that Edgar was the only likable person in that entire
Well,
movie, but just likable in the sense of he wasn't insane. So he was a pushover though in the movie,
He
like
was a
real bad.
pushover. Yeah. Her husband, mom.
yeah, Edgar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Edgar. The only person I actually liked in the book was Hareton.
Yes.
So I felt bad for Hareton. He was the only person
Right.
that the only character I actually felt bad for. And I was happy when he and young Catherine got together at the end and
Right.
they leave and they go to Thrush Cross
But they
Range.
didn't develop him a lot in the Tom Hardy one, or in the other one either.
Yeah. They kind of he's sort of like an aside, but I actually think he's also really important to Heathcliff's revenge plot because
Yeah.
he's Linley's son and he does to him what not Hindley did to him in making him a servant and making it so he doesn't become literate. There is this redemption arc with Catherine, young Catherine teaching him how to read,
Yeah.
and they're kind of able to have the happy ending that Heathcliff
She
and
evolved
original
because of him, because she started out being like her mother.
Yes.
And then once she met him, that relationship went back and forth. Like first she hated him and then she didn't. And then,
Mhm.
he kind of brought out the human side of her, where she wasn't always attacking and, because at the beginning she was making fun of him because she couldn't
Yeah.
read, at least in the book. I don't know about the rest of it. And then at some point in the book, Nellie says to her, you don't need to be like that with him. And
Yeah,
then they kind of developed this friendship where they plant the flowers and the guy Joseph gets all bent out of shape. But I think he was her source of redemption.
I 100% agree, and I think the whole point of their narrative is this is what Catherine and Heathcliff could have been. They
Right.
could have helped each other grow, and they could have had this happy ending if they had allowed themselves to do that or been allowed, if
Yeah, but they didn't
circumstances.
have, at the end, they didn't have the interference of the adults
Exactly.
that were crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the only one that I liked, and I feel like would have liked to have seen more of his character as a way to redeem. But then that also brings me back to this idea of like, is Harrington the only kind of redeemable character because Nellie helped raise him at the beginning? Because remember in the book, Nellie like is raising Harrington
Yeah,
after the wife dies and she like loves him, and then Hindley forces her to go away. And so like is that the only reason why he's viewed more sympathetically in the book?
yeah,
And is this all just, Nellie's point of view on hating all of these people? Are they really all this bad? I don't know.
yeah. You're all crazy.
So I guess like, my question is like we talked about obviously all of these movie adaptations are very different from the book, and the book in and of itself, I don't know. I mean, you can take it as you want, but why do you guys think this has become such an enduring story that continues to be adapted into films? What is the draw of this?
That's a good
I mean,
question.
I feel like it's the same reason that like any of the classics continue to get readapted is just because they've solidified themselves as part of everyday society now that they're just understood to just be classics. It's their own separate genre almost. So it's like we're gonna have Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights and the Count of Monte Cristo and all this stuff. We're gonna have adaptations of all of this stuff until the cows come home.
I think there's also universal themes. They're universal themes.
They're so
Like what?
widely taught too. There aren't generations that don't know about these books. So
You get a thing like with Wuthering Heights. I mean, it's really obsessive love and how it evolves into just being something destructive. I mean, people do that today, maybe on a different level or in a different way. Or even with Jane Eyre, there's nothing unusual that she would fall in love with the master of the house. It's just things that happen, with human nature. So the thing is, like, take a book like Wuthering Heights and you see what happens to people. I mean, then you have to say, in 200 years, have we evolved? Where we can still relate
That's true.
to that kind of a story? I mean, no, none of us, well, I don't know, but most of us are not digging up the grave. You know what I mean? So there are psychological problems that still exist today. They're, I think, just part of the human nature. Not that it's a wonderful thing, but it's just how it is.
I do think that there's kind of a draw to this book, like for directors and producers and everything. Like everyone thinks that they're going to make the next great adaptation. Like I think that that's what this movie was kind of. They
Okay.
understand that this book is like so like popular and has all of these odd themes in it and like like darkness and they're like this is going to be the next movie phenomenon, like my
But there's so
adaptation is
much
going to
to
be
work
the
with.
adaptation.
There's,
Yeah.
there's a lot to
So
work
I
with.
think that's why a lot of the adaptations are so different too, is because
Hmm.
everyone kind of approaches it from a different perspective because the book has so many layers, which is hilarious that we all couldn't really get through it because it really is such a complicated book, but we all just hated it. We're all like, it's so layered. There's so many things, like all the stuff we hated it. It
We
was
hated
so
it.
bad.
Yeah, but so I mean, obviously, I hated it. I have no desire to read it again. Caroline couldn't even start it for the most part because she hated it so much. But Mama, you said you would reread it. So what makes you want to reread it after everything we've talked about?
Because, well, now when I see the adaptations, not just this one, which I haven't seen, I probably won't, but I want to go back and see how it relates to the book because I think the book is not an easy read, and sometimes I tend to skim,
Yeah.
and I want to hear more of the dialogue. I probably wouldn't start right at the beginning when Mr. Lockwood shows up. I think I would start more from when Nellie starts to tell the story because that to me was like a
Yeah.
waste of time. And even the original film from 1939, it begins with him arriving in the rain and all that. There's an awful lot of rain in the moors, you know.
Well, they're on the moors. So much rain.
Diana's got commentary about the rain.
Like get to it. So I
Yeah.
I think I would just start with where she starts the story. And I had a tough time keeping everybody straight. Like,
Yeah,
who
I
is this
did.
one's brother? Who is that one's brother? I was like, wait a minute. I was like,
I
how
mean,
did
Yeah,
I
when
go
I
you
don't
back? Which one is Henley? Which one is...
I don't wanna say that you have every right to say that you hated it because you made it through the entire book. I don't wanna say that I hated it because I didn't make it far enough to form an actual opinion like that because I know that there are some people out there that think that this is the best book that's ever written.
Do they
So I'm
still
like,
sell Cliff Notes?
like
Do they still sell Cliff
No, they don't.
Notes? No?
It's Spark Notes now, Nana. It's free.
It's SparkNotes, or you just go on Wikipedia
Or you
and they'll
chat
give you
GPT it.
and they'll give
Yeah.
you the plot summary.
But yeah, I don't want to say I hated it. I personally couldn't get into it. But like I don't want any of the diehards to come after me.
No, they're not going to come after you in our podcast. It's fine. The point
No,
here
but you know
is
what I
that
mean. You know what I mean.
the point is we all have our own opinion, and you hated it less than I hated it, so they can come after me because I really abhorred it. Um, and yeah, but I will also. You'll put a book down. I won't put a book down. I
I
think there
am a
may be
DNFer.
Right.
If I hated it, if I hated it, it's going back in the closet.
no. Oh no. If I have opened the first page, unless I think there are maybe like 2 books that I have started to read in my whole life that I haven't finished because
They
they
must
were
have
so
been
bad.
like horrendous.
They were
then.
so bad.
What were they?
One was in high school, and it was the shipping news, and I hated that book.
The
I
movie
hated
was
it.
good.
I hated it. So boring. And it
Oh
was
my
just
God.
really slow,
Yeah.
and I couldn't deal with it. Yeah, but it is a very rare occurrence that I won't finish a book that I've started. So as much as I hated it, I was like, I'm getting through this thing, getting to the end. So we talked about there are a lot of layers. I'm curious, like, if you were doing an adaptation, what would you focus on?
That's a great question.
Mom, what would
I
you
think-
focus on
What I
if you
focus
were
on?
Yeah, what would you focus on if you were adapting it? Like, how would you tell the story?
I
What
think
would you
I would
keep? What
really
would you
wanna
get rid of?
They're all effing
try
crazy.
to tell it from what'd you say?
She said they're all effing crazy.
That'll be the name of the movie.
That's the
I
tagline.
really
Wuthering
think-
Heights. They're all
I really
effing
think I
crazy.
would try to do something from Heathcliff's point of view,
Mm,
from his perspective, because I think he's really the unique one. You know, he's always the odd man out, no matter what.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and then and the other thing too is they don't tell you anything about what he was doing the 3 years he was gone, you know, like how he made his money or any of that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be interesting to find out. But I mean, you'd have to dream it up. It's not part of the story. But as far as him living with them, I think I'd like to see it from his point of view, like how he felt, what he was thinking all that time.
I think I would do like a dual perspective from Heathcliff and Catherine. Almost like the Wuthering Heights movie. Like the movie was more Catherine's perspective. Like the movie was
Okay.
Catherine's perspective. They didn't it wasn't from anyone else's because it just followed her like the entire time.
Okay.
So I would do probably like more of a combination, I think, between both of them. I don't know if I would give Heathcliff that kind of background, like figuring out where he made his money, because I feel that kind of adds to his
His
I
mystery.
hesitate to say vibe, but like the vibe of his character. I think it's like important that like you don't know how he made his money and that it's supposed to be like of dubious origins, you know?
hmm
Because it adds to his like, you know, insanity almost. Because like it's almost kind of implied that he made his money through nefarious means, you know what I mean? At least in the movie anyway. So
Well, yeah. I mean, it seems in the way that they say it in the Tom Hardy version is because they try to address it, and he just says, "I made my money how all men do by taking advantage of the weakness of other men."
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if I was adapting the story, I think I would try to do it actually following the book, not taking a certain angle, but just trying to follow what Emily Bronte had put in there versus trying to condense it or simplify it.
take the 5-episode model that you were
Yeah.
talking about for sure.
Now I'm going to have to watch that 5-episode one. Maybe they do this. Maybe I'm coming up with an idea that has already been done. It's totally
This is not revolutionary.
yeah, maybe I'm coming up with something where it's like it's Captain Obvious that already happened.
Have to go research that.
I'm gonna have to go watch it because I didn't see the 5-episode one in my research, but maybe I just didn't research hard enough. So what should we read for our next book club, ladies?
I think that we should read a book that all three of us haven't read. So I think Project Hail Mary is actually a good idea.
What is
If
it?
you guys want to do that. Project Hail Mary, the one about the sun dying.
I don't know.
She doesn't seem into it.
I don't care.
That was so like, okay.
I don't care about the sun dying.
Does anybody die?
I
well,
mean,
the people, the whole
slaughtered.
species.
like everyone dies.
So for people listening, my mother only watches
Murder mayhem.
murder shows from Scandinavia. That is all she
And
does.
she only reads like Harlan Coben.
I don't
Yeah.
need Harlan Coben. I think he's
Well, you read Nelson
And she has a
DeMille.
personal hatred for James Patterson.
Oh,
So no
Hates James Patterson.
Oh,
Hates him so much, but she only watches, murder mystery shows. Like, basically, every time we talk to her, I'm like, who died in Sweden? Because that's all she watches is people dying in Sweden.
Hey, I did get her to watch Miss Scarlet and the Duke, and that is a British show. So
That's true.
we got
that's not bad.
And
it's not bad. But I do enjoy my murder and mayhem in Sweden and Norway.
You do enjoy your
maybe
murder.
you should branch out a little bit. I think it would be good to branch
Well,
out.
sometimes I watch murder and mayhem in England.
We could do like Agatha Christie. We could do like Death on the Nile.
Christie. I like Agatha Christie.
All right. Do you guys? I've actually
Wanna do
never
Death
read
on the Nile.
Yeah, I've
We could-
never read an Agatha Christie, so I would totally do that.
Well, I read a lot of them when I was a kid.
Have you ever read Death on the Nile, Nana?
Yeah, I read that one. I read Murder on the Orient Express. By today's standards, though, it's very simplistic. You know what I
Okay.
mean? It's like, well, because you got to figure, like, they didn't have DNA or any of the stuff that we have. You know what I mean? They're like
right.
glorified versions of Clue, the game Clue. No, really, they really are.
Agatha Christie's rolling in her grave right now.
Yeah, but I mean, like some of the channels like MHC and BritBox, they still run Agatha Christie movies, and they're still interesting.
Ooh, we could read a Dan Stevens book. He just came out with a new one. We could do like the Da Vinci Code, or we could read his new one. It's called like Secret of Secrets or something.
I read Da Vinci.
Have you guys ever read any of his? Dan Brown.
Not Dan Stevens.
That's what
Dan
I meant.
Brown. I was like, who's Dan Stevens?
Dan Brown. Sorry.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
This
Brain
is a
going too
podcast.
fast.
This is a podcast of us just getting everybody's names wrong about things. I feel like we've mislabeled.
She called him Jason Elordi for half the episode.
Jason Elordi, Charlotte Bronte. We're just
Hey,
Dan
only one of them was
Stevens.
me.
Who are these people? I can't
Dan
remember.
Brown.
I can't remember the lady from Couples Therapy.
Do you know how many Dan's published books that I have to shelve at my job? There are so many Dans. Okay.
So many Dans. I was like, who is Dan Stevens?
Dan Brown. But yeah,
Okay.
like, have you guys read the Da Vinci Code or the new one?
I liked the Da Vinci Code. I liked it a lot. Mom, I think you read it, didn't you?
Yeah, I read it ages ago.
Yeah. I wasn't as big of a fan of, I read maybe one or two more of his, and I wasn't as big of a fan of them.
Well, you know what it is? They get repetitive. It becomes a formula. It's like
Okay, so maybe not the new one then.
Yeah. It's a little John Grisham-y.
all of them, like
Yeah.
Harlan Coben, all those people.
Well, hi, Smokey.
Hi, Smokey.
Smokey is my Nana's cat. He has joined us.
Did Smokey make
Sno-
Mom, you still there, Diane? This is the most
this is the most
recording
accurate-
This is the most recording a podcast with your mother.
This is the most accurate representation of just Nana that I've ever seen in my entire life.
think, well, hopefully she comes back.
She'll be back eventually once she figures
She'll be
it
back. All right. Well, for everybody listening, we did lose my mother to the cat stepping on her keyboard. And so we didn't get her back. So
out. What a way to go.
What a way to go. I mean, I feel like we all predicted that would be the way Diane went anyway. The cat doing something. All right. Well, Caroline, thank you for joining. This was a really good conversation. And I am excited for next month's book club. Hopefully
I am
Death on the
too.
Nile with Agatha Christie. So if people, the 5 people who listen to my podcast want to read along with us, please do.
5 and growing.
5 and growing. We're getting there. Yeah, I don't see it as a small audience. I see it as a select and exclusive group.
They know what they like.
They do.
That's what this podcast is for.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks, Caroline. This has been really good. I'm excited for next month. And I
I am
hope you have
too.
an awesome day.